let's first get to the Top Rank sale. I think that's a bigger issue, not bigger issue, bigger topic. Let's say in the boxing world, let's say if Top Rank does sell in any sort of capacity, whether it's its library, whatever it is, that's massive news for the sport. You're talking about a 60+ year promotional company selling, that would be massive. So let's get to the audio from the Chris Mannix podcast with Bob Arum detailing his thoughts about this. Bob Arum's thoughts about whether or not he should sell in any capacity. And Gary, remember, when you're not talking, please mute yourself. Okay, please mute yourself. Let's play this audio.
Do you think about what Top Rank will become when you're gone? Do you think about that at all?
No, I mean, it'll continue. Won't have me, shooting my mouth off, but
that, maybe, that is kind of what Top Rank. I mean, you are
shooting my mouth off is what Top Rank is.
Well, it's a big part of it. It's you promoting. I mean, you call it shooting your mouth off, promoting.
All right, but again, we have smart people here that know how to make matches, and ultimately, are the matches that you make and the product that you present to the people which make it successful or not successful.
Do you hope it stays in the family, or would you care if it got sold off?
I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, particularly, I'm 88 years old, so let's assume we sold it to a big company, paid me money, and and I still had a say in the promotion and so forth. And when you're dead, you're dead. After I'm dead, who the hell cares? Certainly not me. I'm dead. Right?
It sounds like you've thought about selling, though. Is that
what?
Have you thought about selling?
Yeah, we always think about selling. Sure, not that we look for a buyer, but we've had a number of very attractive offers over the past year.
What stopped you?
They weren't attractive. No.
Is that just the bottom line, though?
That is the bottom line.
If somebody came in with an attractive enough offer and you could still do what you do, you wouldn't care if you...
In 2 seconds. In 2 seconds, I'd give them all the memorabilia also.
Not everybody would say that.
Well, I would.
Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah.
That you'll sell?
Probably. We'll see. It's a race to see my demise and whether it's sold after my demise.
What does Todd think about the future of this company?
Who?
Todd.
I think he likes the future and he wants to be involved. But if we're sold to the right people, it would do a lot better than it's doing now, because it will have I'm looking to sell it to somebody that can help make it part of my dream, which is a worldwide enterprise. I'm looking really for the resources and the wherewithal and the knowledge to do fights in India and to make boxing a really, truly international sport.
Is there somebody out there that has that?
Yes. I'm not going to tell you who. Not going to tell you who, because that'll affect the price if they come in.
All right, Bob. I'll let you go. Bob, you never disappoint. I got to tell you that. Always.
All right, let's get into it, Gary. Obviously, this isn't completely new information. I mean, we've had now years of Bob Arum / Top Rank being in the news cycle in some fashion, in talks to sell. And again, some fashion. It goes all the way back to 2017 with Bob Arum and William Morris Endeavor at the time, now just Endeavor, which is the giant Hollywood talent agency, which also owns and the majority owners of the UFC. They wanted to buy the fight library of Top Rank in 2017. I think they wanted to try to buy out Top Rank all out in 2018 and in 2019. Because let's not forget, when we were talking about the Endeavor buyout in some capacity of PBC, Top Rank was included in that. They were looking at Top Rank. So this is not new information, but this is, from my recollection, the kind of the first time Bob Arum has been really open about this topic to some capacity and saying he wants to sell. He wants to get out of the business, and that if it's the right bidder or the right buyer with the right amount, and in his mind, he can still be a part of it in some capacity, and it would grow the brand. He's all for it. And obviously, Endeavor is a company that has been looking to expand its profile, and buying Top Rank would probably be included in that to some capacity. So, Gary, my thoughts on this is that we will 100% see Top Rank be sold to a company, and I will even add to that, it be Endeavor. That Endeavor will buy the Top Rank at some point and house UFC and Top Rank within its profile and its portfolio, so to speak. And I will also almost bet money that I don't have money to bet that they will look to buy Top Rank out before they launch their IPO, meaning Endeavor, before they go public on the stock market. I think that's probably one of the holdups they wanted that kept them from going and launching their IPO last year. They want to beef up their portfolio. Top Rank is a massive, long-time, multi-million-dollar company you can attach yourself to. And again, the fight library of Ali, Leonard, etc., that they have is quite synonymous with just boxing as a whole. Plus all ESPN properties as well, UFC and Top Rank. Gary, your thoughts on Top Rank selling, period? Like your thoughts on what that would look like. Would you want Top Rank to get out of the Bob Arum family, so to speak? Because obviously Todd LaBeouf is his son-in-law, right? I want to say. And who do you see buying out Top Rank? Do you see it be Endeavor? Do you see it be the UFC owners buying out Top Rank, or do you see another party coming in and buying them out? Thoughts, Gary?
I think Todd DeBuff is his wife's son, because his wife is Lovey DeBuff. I don't know what that would make him. His son?
Stepson?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
I forgot the relation exactly. I know they're related. I just forget the relation exactly.
I know his wife's name was Lovey DeBuff. So I'm guessing, I don't know.
Anyways, digress.
That's not really material.
Salient.
It makes sense. Like I think that he's 88 years old. I can't believe he's 88. He's still sharp for 88.
Gary, hold on one second. Gary, you're breaking up a little bit. Refresh your page. Yeah, just do that. It might be me. It might be Gary. My internet's been shit lately, so it would not be surprising if it's my fault. But definitely curious to see what happens with Top Rank going forward. Gary, you're back. What's up?
I've been having internet problems all the last 2 days, so if there's an issue, just let me know. I'll have the manhandle AT&T.
You know me, Gary. I've been having to. Gary. Whenever I'm talking, please mute yourself because StreamYard's fucked up. We're gonna have to figure something out going forward. But again, thoughts on Top Rank selling, who they would sell to, who do you want them to sell to, and do you want them to sell? Period.
I mean, I would like them to sell. Whoever buys Top Rank, I hope they buy PBC too, because then they just put the two, no more colliding heads. Like, just work together. You know what I'm saying? Like, have it all under one umbrella so that we don't have to worry about Top Rank fighters not fighting PBC fighters and so on and so on. I always thought that Bob Arum would just go public with it and then let Todd DeBuff deal with all the headaches that go along with that, right? Like, when he's done, just go public, get public funds, and then let Todd DeBuff deal with all the nightmares of being a publicly traded company. I mean, the good news is you get money from all types of investors, right? It's open. Anyone can buy into your company. The problem is exactly that, right? So that he's looking to sell to a bigger company, it was interesting to me. I didn't think that's what they were going to do. I'm sure, look, just that library alone has value, right? So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of interest. And I don't know if he has a reasonable price in his mind or if he's just looking to, like, make me sell kind of thing, like make me an offer that's I can't say no to. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know how much control he has over Top Rank day to day. And I'm sure that whatever deal they struck, Todd DeBuff would still have a part in that deal. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it would be out of DeBuff's hands entirely.
And honestly speaking, depending who the owner is, if they brought in a bunch of new people, it would predominantly be non-boxing people, I'm assuming. You know, because if you're thinking it's a bigger media company to some degree, bigger media companies aren't boxing companies. You know, like there's a difference. Look at like DAZN's issues and them admitting their issues, not understanding the boxing industry, right? Because they're not a boxing company. They're a media company. It's very different. And I think to some degree, a lot of the possible suitors to Top Rank fit that category. However, I am curious of an Endeavor type that has now a track record with the combat sports industry. And plus with the synergy that would bring ESPN's network with their boxing content and their MMA content, I could see not necessarily like Dana White being, let's say, now involved with Top Rank, but Endeavor be better suited to handpick boxing people to bring into Top Rank that they would want to lead that corporation to the new branding of it, and they be adequate for the job. But regardless of that, I think you're largely right. I think Todd LaBeouf will be here at least for the next 10, 20 years, let's be honest. I think Bob Arum is probably out of here in the next 5, 10 years. And where that sale happens on that timeline, it doesn't really matter because I think it will happen. Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you see Top Rank staying private within the Bob Arum family, or do you predict them selling?
I think they will. I don't think he would have said that if he was just going to give it to Todd DeBuff, right? I think, or maybe he's just 88 and senile. I don't know.
That's comfortable.
If you heard Joe Biden lately, I mean, all people just say the damnedest things, you know?
It's rough. It's rough, man. Don't bring up Iowa. Just don't do it.
No, I think he will sell it. I think that's his plan. I don't think that he cares. You know, some people want the legacy, some people want it to go on, and some people don't care. I wouldn't care when I'm gone. I have kind of Bob Arum's point of view. You know, my interesting, like, do you think ESPN, and I don't know the legalities of it, ESPN would want to buy it? Because then they would own all the rights to all the Ali fights, all those classic fights. ESPN would own the rights to that.
I mean, it's not unheard of. We have DAZN, allegedly, though
That's what I was, yeah.
I feel safe in assuming this, having a minor ownership of Matchroom USA, and also allegedly some ownership and some sort of investment into Golden Boy as well. Also coming out from John Nash on Bloody Elbow, they're 50%, so to speak, of the revenue for Bellator as well. It comes from DAZN. Like, networks are becoming such a massive force in this industry, and in some aspects overtaking promoters in terms of control. So is it impossible to see a future where a network has a majority ownership of a promotional company as well? No, they already, in large aspect, sort of run the promoters and tell them what to do. It may be a de facto relationship that's not written that way, even though it might be written that way in some fashion in terms of like dates and venues or in certain events they're demanding from the promoters. But largely speaking, I think networks are the ones in control of the market right now. To see them further supplant that control would not be shocking at all. And plus, it's ESPN, aka ABC, aka Disney. You telling me Disney would buy out a company? Yeah, that seems likely. That seems actually par for the course, right, Gary? That Disney would grow their monopoly and monopoly power of the entertainment industry? Absolutely. I wonder, though, if that's the smart thing. If that's even, I'm not as well versed on like the Ali Act. I don't even know if that's like from a legal perspective, legal. Like, I don't know if a network can own a promotional company and have that, that dominant force of a negotiation with the fighter. That would be, I think, a new barrier to hit to some fashion. But digressing from that, do you see Top Rank growing from the buyout or falling apart from the buyout in the next 5 years, let's say? Like, do you see Top Rank becoming truly, the number 2 company and promotional company in the world again? Because I would say they aren't right now. I would say they're a good number 3rd, but they're not number 2. I'd probably give Matchroom that. And I would class PBC, even though they're not this, as a pseudo promotional company. They're number 1, I would argue. But Gary, thoughts on like Top Rank's long-term viability, honestly speaking, even with the buyout, even with, like, let's say an Endeavor coming in with having a multi-billion-dollar entertainment conglomerate that owns the UFC, or ESPN coming in and buying out Top Rank, would that actually improve Top Rank as a whole? Would it improve its viability as a company? Thoughts?
I mean, that depends who buys them and what their interest is in them, right? Like, if they got bought out by a much bigger company, up front it would be good because they would get loaded with cash. It'd be like if I gave you an unlimited credit card. It'd be good for you up front, right? Yeah. But then do they just load them up with debt and then declare, set that up as a private entity and then bankrupt it? I don't know. I don't know. Like, what is their interest in it? Do they? Is it? When it's with Bob Arum, it's helping that family. They know it's a long-term play.
For this thought experiment, Gary, let's say, and you can pick either or here. It's one of your, like, choose your path books, right? Like back in the day. Let's say it's either Endeavor, which is a Hollywood talent agency which owns the UFC, multi-billion-dollar company, or it's ESPN. One of those two. You can pick which one. You can give options for both. And I'll be honest, I think in this thought experiment, both those companies have a desired long-term interest in Top Rank.
Yeah,
I would argue that.
I would say for sure. I think ESPN would just be bad at it because ESPN is just bad, right? I don't know much about Endeavor, but I mean, they're in the combat sport industry, and obviously they've done pretty well. They have a lot of money. They've done fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably be better long-term. Short-term, it would be better for ESPN because they could do what DAZN did at a higher level. They'll just throw a whole ton of money at people, and then that'll fly for 2 years until they see that it's not paying off, and then just cut it. You know what I'm saying? Like, Endeavor's going to have a more day-to-day interest in the growth of it because it's a larger portion of their business, right? ESPN, it's a tiny little fraction. It's a rounding error of what they do. So, yeah, they'll throw money at it, and then when they see it's not working, okay, cut it. You know what I'm saying? I would rather go to Endeavor than ESPN, but I think ESPN will want it just because they'll own the library that has Hagler Hearns, that has Ali Frazier. They would own all that. When they want to do a couple of years from now, Cotto versus Margarito, 30 for 30, they own it, right? Like,
oh my God,
right? Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense that both of them would want to buy it. Initially, it's better for ESPN until they find out that there's not much interest in boxing unless something drastically changes. But long term, I think a better home for it, 20 years out would be Endeavor. Does that make sense?
No, I agree completely. Let's touch on that a little bit because I'm not gonna play the clip or anything. I didn't make the clip of this, but Bob Arum talked a little bit about the industry and its health right now. And he's sort of echoed a lot of what we've said, Gary. But you said something right there that there's not a lot of interest in boxing, generally speaking, right? Unless it's a Canelo fight to some degree, and then again, we're talking about certain areas of the country and certain areas of the world that are interested, not worldwide, right? If we're talking about Pacquiao, we're talking about AJ, again, same sort of topic, same sort of thing where, yes, there's interest there, but that's about it. The Mayweathers of the world, the Conor McGregors of the world. Like, there's interest in those combat sports athletes, but that's about it. I can name 5 people that are really superstars in combat sports, and that's, again, about it. I think it's safe to say back in the 80s, the 70s, and the 60s, that just wasn't the same. You had people fighting on ABC, CBS, NBC, fighting from 20, 30 million people at a time, 10 million people at a time. It was just a completely different paradigm. is there a way for boxing to get to 10% of that era? Where, you know, where an average, let's say an ESPN card, a Fox card, let's say an ESPN card, on average, every boxing card does at least 1 million views. That'd be amazing, right? Let's say on Fox, they on average do at least 2.5 million views, 3 million views on average.
There's certainly a path to get there, but it's long-term planning, right? You'd have to take things off of pay-per-view. You'd have to give me Spence versus Thurman, or Spence versus, you know, Porter, or Pacquiao versus Spence, or Spence versus on regular
Pacquiao Garcia.
Right. You'd have to give me those fights on regular TV on a consistent basis, right? And then put your second tier boxing on ESPN, you know, and Fox Sports 1. But ABC, like free TV, is going to have to be where it's at just to get fans in, just to put it in front of as many eyes as possible. And not a one-off, not just Thurman versus Garcia and then buy everything else on pay-per-view. It's going to, just like football, just like baseball, just like basketball, just like college football, you're going to have to give it to me over and over and over again, and a high-quality product over and over again to create that. Look, if you ask people, if you're just sitting at a bar and there's random games on, there's a fight on, there's a random basketball game on that's out of town, a random college football game, and a random baseball game, and you say, look about the fight, the crowd will watch the fight. The people, they won't know what they're watching. They won't know who's in the ring. But people like to watch violence, right? And they'll watch boxing. Boxing is the best sport to watch. If you don't believe me, next time you're at a baseball game and a fight breaks out in the crowd, where does everyone look? Right? They take their eyes off the baseball game and watch the fight. People like to watch fights, right? So when there's a good fight, people will watch it. But they need, I mean, it's going to take an investment. It's going to have to say, okay, we're going to take a little less on the short term to build this up and make it a staple in the American, you know, in the American sports diet.
Is I agree with you completely, and this thing we talked about is, this is maybe a weird aspect, but is an issue with the boxing industry and that thought process that they have to take the short term or the short money for the long term investment, right? That a lot of these executives, promoters are now, let's be honest, 60 plus years old. Like they're advanced in age. Look at Bob Arum's way of talking. He wants to cash out, man. He doesn't give a fuck about the company anymore. He wants to cash out, really. That's kind of his rhetoric. Do we need a newer generation to come in, you know, like, I don't know, smaller promoters, smaller people, like, you know, guys like Dimitri Salita, guys that were fighters, guys that are a little more idealistic, I think, about promotion? Do they need to come in and a more of a higher level and start being more a force in the industry? Because otherwise, we never get to that point. We never get these promoters, these network execs taking short-term money for the long-term investment. And is that you know, similar to politics degree, but like the older establishment in like certain political parties, right? Like they are so entrenched. We need almost a generational cycle, so to speak, for change to happen. And in politics, you can maybe argue that's happening right now. But Gary, thoughts on that? That there's this generational, I don't know, clash, so to speak. And that's why you have this holdout of this older class of people, this older class of corporatists and capitalists that don't want that change, don't want to invest in that change because they're more sort of interested in their pockets.
I want to, like, the easy answer is yes, younger people would be motivated for a bigger play. I don't know if that's the case because, like, if you look at all these young, like, hedge fund specialists, they're in for a short game. They want to load the company up with debt, take their profit, and bail on it, right? Which, again, it is what it is, right? The easy answer would be yes, but it all depends on the individual. And I want to make an analogy, right? When Kobe Bryant, and this is something Jordan Clarkson told a couple of weeks before Kobe died. Kobe's last year on the Lakers was 2016. So he's 36 years old. The Lakers are trash, and he's a fraction of himself, and he knows he's not coming back next year. Would shoot 500 jump shots. Had to make 500 jump shots. So before warm-ups, he'd take go out an hour and a half to hit 500 shots before warm-ups. The only person on the team So none of the younger guys had any interest in joining him except for Jordan Clarkson. Right? He said D'Angelo Russell intentionally walked out 5 minutes after the warm-up start just to show Kobe that he wasn't doing that. Okay. But I mean, Kobe's career was over, right? Like his legacy is what it is. The Lakers aren't winning the championship this year. The season's over. But Kobe says, "This is what I do." Right? Jordan Clarkson was the only player who'd go out and shoot with him. So I mean, I don't know if these guys. My point was, if these old guys want it to last forever, if they want to have their legacy, they want to have their company go on when they're gone, then it doesn't matter. You know that then they're gonna do the best that they can for the long term. If they're talking like Bob Arum, I want a quick fix, I want my money, I want to go home, then that's how they're gonna act. But like, if fighters get involved, I think fighters have more of a love and a respect for the sport, where they want to see it, last long term, as opposed to if some billionaire comes in and buys it and chops it up for parts. You know what I'm saying? There's no easy answer. It's all depends on the individual that buys it.
No, I agree with you, Gary. I'm just trying to theorize, is there a segment of the industry that we need to start pulling from to be more in positions of power? Is it people in media, people in manager roles? Is it fighters? Should fighters start being more in positions of power? But then again, look at Oscar and Floyd. I see a path to correct the issue of boxing being a niche sport and no one taking the necessary steps to get there. No one wanting to actually, play together, so to speak, and work together to get there. I mean, if Bob Arum and Al Heyman decide, hey, you know what, let's just work together. Let's just start working together on every card. Like, imagine how that will look. Because that can happen. Where like fighters go to each card and they beef up the ESPN cards and the Fox cards. And Bob Arum and Al Heyman are saying, how do we get boxing back to a mainstream sport so everyone is eating better, everyone's getting paid more?
It could happen on one phone call in a meeting, right? I mean, it's easy. Companies do things like this all the time. Let's work together, right? I mean, they don't want to. I mean, it's not like it would be that difficult. It's fairly easy. Bob has Al's number and Al has Bob's number, and they all have Eddie's number, so that like they can call each other up and say, let's work together. We'll rotate it. I'll have it on my network, but then you'll give me 2 of your undercard fighters, and then we'll flip it. I mean, this is not difficult, right? And then
to a degree, we have that with like mainstream sports. We have that with NFL, NBA, with networks, right? With going to ESPN, Fox, CBS, like they spread the wealth, so to speak, so everyone makes money. Like this thought process that boxing has to be this segmented, infighting, tribal niche sport where no one likes and like none of the best fights happen because that's just the way it is, I think is so ignorant. Like it's such a ostrich way of thinking. Like you're sticking your head in the sand saying, nope, sorry, this is the way it is. And it's unfortunate that Bob Arum has that way of thinking. And I think a lot of other people in this industry have that way of thinking.
I wanted to ask you about that, right? This is like, if you were like on the history of the mafia, they say John Gotti ruined the mafia because he publicized it. He put it in front of everyone, right? Do you think there's that kind of mentality in boxing because it's so corrupt that these guys want it to be a little under the radar, a little niche, so that like we were talking about all the corruption that goes on in a weigh-in. Like if there were all these eyes on it, if it was baseball or football, like the whole world would see it and you wouldn't be able to get away with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like boxing fans don't care. They love boxing anyway. So let's just
1,000%, Gary. 1,000%. And in this same interview with Chris Mannix, he's asked about the YouTube fights with Logan Paul. And what do you think Bob Arum says? You think he hates it? No, of course not. You know why? Because he's put on bullshit fights like this, right? Like he's put on circus freak show things. So he says, hey, it's boxing. This isn't, I forget the exact words he used, but like this sport isn't for saints. It's something to that effect, right? This sport isn't for the holy. And this sport isn't for the righteous. And it's like, cool, man. Like we get it. This sport is nasty. And then you have Chris Mannix going, haha, you're right, Bob. This sport is filled with awful people. And I think you're 100% right. That there is all these people in power are making money, millions, while the system is corrupt, to use a very broad term, but completely destructured to the point where its inefficiencies are used against the sport itself, I think. Similar to like tax loopholes. Like promoters will use loopholes to abuse the sport. Is the sport inherently corrupt? Yes and no. The system is bad. The system needs to be corrected. They don't want that system to be really put to light to be on the mainstream, because then it would be treated and pushed to be better. There's a reason why you're going to have Gervonta Davis going to media blackout for a month and then come back up, resurface, start posting again, do like a seminar on some bullshit, and he's gonna be fine. And you're gonna get the Mayweather promotion of him and Leo Santa Cruz, 1,000%. And they want boxing to be kept a certain way, because if it was the mainstream, that wouldn't fly. That wouldn't be able to happen in 2020. Imagine, Gary, like Saquon Barkley or Patrick Mahomes. Use Patrick Mahomes. A true prodigy in NFL in the NFL right now. If there was video of him picking up his wife by the throat and dragging her out of a place, do you think he would be playing in the Super Bowl?
No. And I want to address that. Absolutely not, right?
The league would come in and step in and say, no, we can't have this for PR perspective. We can't have this for our sponsorships, for our advertisers. No, we cannot have this. Boxing, unfortunately, says we don't care. And that's why we don't have the sponsors and advertisers that get us to the ABCs, the CBSs, and the NBCs of the world. We need those advertising sponsors to get us to those free TV channels. We don't have them because we accept bullshit. And to your point, Gary, corruption as a whole as well.
And I want to address that, because I had met Uraldis Chapman at the Ugas fight, right? And Chapman went through a thing where he hit his wife or girlfriend or whatever it was at the time. I think they're married now. But he didn't just hit her. He didn't shoot at her. Apparently, he shot a warning shot in her vicinity to show her that he wasn't messing around. And he was suspended for 60 games, right? Like, she dropped all the charges, and he admitted to it, right? I don't want Tank Davis to never be able to fight again. That's not what I want. But you have to show me some type of repentance. Don't come out and be like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, I didn't do anything that bad. Acknowledge what you did was wrong and horrible, and grow from it, and show me that you've grown from it. And look, I'm a Christian. I'm a forgiving person. Like, but there needs to be some type of repentance. Like, if you punch me in the face and say, hey, I shouldn't have done that,
you're more likely to forgive that person.
I forgive you. But if you're going to come out and say, I didn't do anything that bad, what are you making a big deal about it? I wouldn't hit her. When you did hit her, like, guy, no. Like, you have to own what you did and grow from it. Like, I'm not going to say it's a scarlet letter that you have to wear for the rest of your life and you can never work again. That's not what I want, right? I want him to be able to grow from this and have a life again, but he needs to, like, learn a lesson and understand that what he did was wrong and improve upon himself.
No, I absolutely agree, Gary. I mean, you took all my words. I mean, the Gervonta Davis video we did either 2 days ago or the show we did the other day, talking about it as well, his arrest. I mean, I'm going to probably clip that out tomorrow or later today as well. We said that. Like, it's like, I'm not here for like the cancel culture thing. Like, I'm not like, I might be an SJW socialist, Marxist, or whatever you want to call me, but like, cancel culture is bullshit. Like, people mess up, and people mess up big time. Like, hitting women, like that's a thing that people have done for a long time throughout human history. Why? Because we live in a patriarchal society that has abused women for long amounts of time. Women were the last people that were allowed to vote in this country, for fuck's sake. Like, I mean, abuse towards women is just commonplace to the point where it's sad. We have to work towards fixing that, correcting it. Canceling everyone, whatever that means, is not what is materially important here. Like, we need people to understand what they're doing is wrong, repent, like you said, ask for forgiveness, work towards correcting that issue, and correct the issue. And then we forgive you. We accept you back into society. Like, if anything, society is quite forgiving of people.
Like, we can go on. There's plenty of guys who have done egregious things, who have bettered themselves and shown us that they've bettered themselves, and it's a pretty forgiving. Like America's kind of the land of second chances, right? Like, so I mean, used to be. That's kind of the idea of the C student gets to go over and have a second chance somewhere. Like, I'll retry over there. Like, I mean, if people honestly better themselves and admit that they've done something terrible, and I want to grow from this and I want to put this behind me and grow from it, more power to you. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's move on, Gary, because we've been talking about this for a while. I just realized we've been talking about this for an hour. Holy shit. Actually, not an hour. We've been on only for like 40 minutes. So that's still a long ass time. And a lot of people in the chat talking about Top Rank, sort of digressing back to Top Rank. So the idea of PBC buying out Top Rank. And like that would be good for boxing to have more people housed in one place. And the idea of like even Endeavor coming in and buying out both and then having more of a conglomerate there. Look, there's obviously benefits to that. Like the sport does need to be streamlined to a significant degree. However, as it's currently constituted, if these promotional companies or pseudo promotional companies in terms of PBC just started morphing into one, the issues of boxing don't go away. They might even be exasperated in some degree. Like they might even be pushed to a more of a significant issue. People trying to make comparisons to like the UFC and saying like if boxing was like the UFC would be better. Like look, the UFC is currently going through several lawsuits, one of them being a massive antitrust lawsuit because of its monopsony power. And if you don't know what that is, check out some of our videos. If you want to find them really quickly, our featured video playlist at the very top of our YouTube page, scroll down on that playlist. Some of our videos on that topic are in there, and I go in depth on that. So check it out. I mean, for example, boxers on average get paid 60 to 70% of the revenue of an event. UFC fighters get paid 20%. The reason why, in large aspect, they get paid so little is because the UFC has such a monopsony power in the negotiation room. And the idea of getting rid of the sanctioning bodies outright and a PBC Top Rank hybrid owning the titles, that also, I think, is not A, legal, and B, something that will benefit the sport. I do think the titles and rankings need to be separate from promotional companies and networks as well. What does that look like? What that league apparatus, sanctioning body apparatus looks like? Maybe that's a topic for another time. But again, saying boxing needs to be the UFC is not an end-all, be-all discussion. Are there things about the UFC that would be awesome in boxing? Absolutely. But MMA and the UFC as a whole, as a promotional company, have significant issues that are different from boxing that also can't be sort of copied from the sport as well and put into boxing. So it's just a bad comparison, in my opinion. Moving on, Gary, unless you have anything else to say.